Hi everyone, this is Brett with Digital Energy, where we talk about Bitcoin, other crypto assets, and the incredible digital revolution that is sweeping the planet. Today's video is part of our Bitcoin for Beginners series. We're going to talk today from a very high level about what Bitcoin is. This will help anyone that's new to cryptocurrencies and especially Bitcoin understand from a conceptual level what Bitcoin is. So let's jump right in. What is Bitcoin? Well, if you're very new to Bitcoin, the first thing you need to understand is Bitcoin is not a physical coin. It's not something that you can have in your hand or put in your pocket. Essentially what Bitcoin is just computer software. It's computer software that's running on a network out on the internet, and it was developed and invented to be a digital form of currency. Or money. So in order to understand it, I think it's useful to understand what money is or have the proper concept of money. So money, when most people think of that term, they think of maybe the cash you have in your wallet that you use to go down to the store and buy groceries or fill up your car with gas. And of course, that is a form of money. But essentially, if you think about it, money is really just anything that is widely accepted that people will exchange for goods or services. So here in the United States, of course, we use the US dollar. I can have all the confidence in the world that I can go down to the grocery store, I can give the grocery store some dollars, and they will give me the food that I want to buy. And throughout the history of the world, many different things have been used for money. Rocks have been used for money, seashells, glass beads, of course, gold and silver coins, other things like that. That's all been used for money. So money is essentially, again, just something that people are willing to exchange for goods and services. So understanding that money is just a means of exchange, something that's widely accepted as a medium of exchange, then it's useful to expand our thinking about money out to beyond just what's in our wallet, and to think about, well, how do we keep track of who has what money? Well, obviously we don't keep all of our cash or all our money in our wallets. We put some in a bank. That's the typical method of storing your money. So when you go to a bank and you make a deposit, that bank doesn't take that money, put your name on it, that physical cash, and put it in their safe. That's just not how banks work. So at any one time, a bank does not have a physical form of money to represent every dollar of deposit they have in there. Rather, they have an electronic ledger, an accounting that keeps a record of who has deposited, what their balance is. It keeps track of all the transactions, both coming in and going out. And that's how the bank in the world keeps track of who has what money. Well, Bitcoin is no different. The Bitcoin software is essentially a database. It keeps track of who has what Bitcoin, and it keeps track of all of the millions of transactions that go on in transferring Bitcoin to and from different individuals. So if Bitcoin is just another form of money, a ledger that keeps track of who owns what, then what's the big deal? What's the hype? Well, the purpose of Bitcoin was really to solve a lot of the problems we have in the monetary systems that have evolved over time. And in fact, Bitcoin is the first major advancement in the technology of money in the last 5,000 years. It's the first form of digital money that's really viable. So what are the problems that we have with our current monetary system? Well, you can see them around us every day, especially now. One problem is that today's currencies, the US dollar, the euro, etc., are controlled by central authorities. And those central authorities, if they decide to, for whatever reason, can print more of it. The problem with that is that when a central authority like the Federal Reserve decides to print billions or trillions of new dollars, that makes the dollar that you have in your wallet worth less. That means that prices will rise through inflation, and although you have a fixed number of dollars, you can buy less with those dollars. That is a major problem. And if you want to learn more about the risks of money printing and how Bitcoin hopefully will save us from that, we'll leave a link in the description below to another video that goes into that more depth that we did a while back. But let's move on. So Bitcoin, but through its technology, the way that it exists, can never be manipulated in that way. You can never make more of it. Bitcoin is not controlled by a central government or any authority, and there will always only be a very fixed, an absolutely fixed volume or amount of Bitcoin that exists. What that does is it makes Bitcoin more reliable, more stable, and a more perfect form of money. The other thing that's great about Bitcoin, obviously, is that it is digital. As a digital entity, it exists in the network, a network that is spread around the world. So essentially, your Bitcoin exists everywhere and nowhere at the same time. It's in the ledger, on the internet, in the cloud. And as such, it can be transferred around the world thousands of times per second at the speed of light. You don't need an intermediary, you don't need a third party, you don't need to pay a large fee. You can actually send Bitcoin from your cell phone to someone else's account without anyone else having to be involved in that transaction. That is far different than what we have in the world today. If anyone has ever tried to transfer money to, say, a family member halfway around the globe, they know that it's not only expensive and time consuming, but it's very difficult to do. And then finally is the idea of security. If many people ask, well, if Bitcoin is just a ledger, it's a computer program, can't it be hacked? Well, again, the most elegant part of Bitcoin technology is the fact that it is virtually impossible to hack the network. Bitcoin uses what's called blockchain technology, and you don't need to really understand all of that except for this. Blockchain technology is a networking type of technology in which, with Bitcoin, there are thousands of computers connected together in the Bitcoin network. Each of those computers, called a node, each contain a full 100% copy of the Bitcoin ledger. And these nodes are constantly talking to each other, validating transactions, and making sure that the ledger on all of those thousands of computers is identical. Now, let's say some nefarious person wants to come in and hack into the system and inject a fraudulent transaction to give themselves millions or billions of dollars of Bitcoin. Well, what would happen? Well, that transaction would come into the system. The nodes would start looking at it and recognize it as not a valid transaction because it wouldn't exist anywhere else in the system. So all of the nodes would look at it and say, hey, wait a minute, that transaction does not match with all of the transactions that we have. And therefore, all of the nodes working together would reject the transaction. The node through which the transaction was hacked through would revert back to the consensus ledger, the true ledger. So in that way, you can see that it would be virtually impossible for this network to be hacked, because what would have to happen is someone would have to simultaneously hack thousands and thousands of computers or nodes that exist at different places all around the world. So there you have it. Bitcoin is advanced computer software operating in a decentralized manner on the internet. It is a form of digital money that is not controlled by any government or central authority, and therefore no new Bitcoin can be printed. It's a digital asset, a digital entity that can be transferred around the world thousands of times per second at the speed of light, and it exists because of the technology on one of the most secure networks ever invented by human beings. If you like this content, please click the like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you'll be notified anytime we post a new video. And please share this video with some family or friends. Until next time, this is Brett with Digital Energy. Protect yourself out there.